Good morning and welcome to Monday Mornings with Margie. Hope you all are having a good Monday so far. And I'm very excited to have a special guest today, Emily, who is someone that's going to speak to us about TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation, and her experience getting treatment at Achieve. So thank you for being here with us today to share your experience with us.
Thank you for having me.
So I guess I wanted to start a little bit with, a lot of the focus that I do here on Monday Mornings with Margie is really around, different kind of mental health issues or things going on in the world that can affect our mental health. We've talked about COVID. So we've covered a lot of different topics so far. One of the things I was wondering for you was obviously before you came to TMS, you were struggling with symptoms of depression. And I'm just wondering if you could share with people a little bit about, what were some of the symptoms you were experiencing? And also, what was the hardest part just in general, living or struggling, whichever way you want to put it, with depression?
So I have mental illness. I have PTSD, bipolar disorder, and I also have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a physical condition, but it causes a lot of fatigue. And of course, when you're, unable to do things that you want to do physically, that takes a toll on your mood as well. So I had kind of been in a really dark place for a really long time. When I was about 10 or 11 years old was when I first started to really struggle with depression symptoms. And that was really hard because it really ostracized me from everyone else that I knew. And sorry, I'm just very thirsty today. Apparently, it's so hot here.
Okay.
But anyway, so through middle school, I had a really, really hard time. I ended up in sort of like a group home type environment. It was called U Inc. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but it was a really bad experience for me. And I had tried different antidepressants, we had tried different mood stabilizers, and I had ended up in the hospital multiple times with horrible side effects from different things. And I just had awful reactions to things, or they just didn't work, or both. And it was just a nightmare. I was so lethargic, and I also have a sleep disorder. So I ended up missing 50 days of my senior year of high school, all in all, with all my issues. And I still did really well. I still graduated top of the class, but I was just miserable for a long time in a lot of ways. And all the mental health issues combined ended up getting me into a lot of bad situations where I accumulated a lot of trauma, and it was just a really, really bad cycle.
So how did you hear about TMS? Like, how did that kind of get brought to your attention?
I actually saw an ad on Instagram, and I was like, I've tried everything. And I was, at that point, I had been thinking about trying ECT. Then I found out about TMS, and I was like, wow, it's a lot less invasive. It has a lot fewer side effects. So, I'm going to give that a go before I try something like ECT or something else. And I'm always interested in like new experimental things because of my Ehlers-Danlos. I'm always interested if anybody's working on any cure research or anything like that. So I try to keep up with the latest trends, and I saw you guys on Instagram, and I knew I had to figure out what it was all about.
Awesome. So, I assume you came in, met with someone for an info session, because that's how it generally works. And so once you came in for your informational session, part of the informational session is for us to get a little information, but also for you to kind of see what TMS is about, see the office space, meet one of the technicians. So what sort of made you decide after you came and saw the site and did the informational session? Was there something about that sort of said, you were like, all right, I've come, I've learned a little bit, and I think this might be the thing for me?
Well, when I first had my info session, Sandra wasn't even there. So it was like it wasn't even like, if she had been part of the package deal, it would have been like, boom, done. But at first it was just, I saw the remission numbers in your statistics, and like I was really looking in the research because I wanted to make sure that this was something that was safe, because it was something that was fast tracked through the FDA, which is a big, like, okay, well, maybe it's really, really effective, but it's also a little bit something you're a little bit unsure about.
Sure.
So seeing those numbers, I was really, really blown away. And then also the office is a really quiet, private, clean, comfortable, cozy little area. And, you know, they do everything. They have Netflix that you can watch, and they have earplugs and like different things. So I just got a really good vibe from you, and also the fact that you guys worked with my insurance. Like, so many doctors see that I have the insurance I have, and they just won't give me the time of day. So it really meant a lot to me that you guys were willing to work with me, and you didn't treat me badly for not having money, basically.
Well, good. I'm glad that was your initial experience, even prior to coming into treatment. So what was your experience of getting TMS, the actual like process of receiving the treatment? And then what was, on top of that, what was your experience like in dealing with staff at Achieve, whether it be Sandra, who ended up being your technician? Was it, I'm not sure if it was Dr. Valenti or Dr. Knapp, but one of those two doctors. And then also, you know, you had to interact with the staff at our central office as well. So what was your overall experience, both with the TMS and then also with the Achieve staff?
Well, with the TMS treatments themselves, my first treatment was really, really intense, and I was like dizzy afterwards, and my head hurt, and I was like, oh God, I don't think I can do this 3-4 times a week. But then when I went back, what we ended up having to do was we had to like change the strength of the treatments and then do it for longer. So the sessions ended up taking me a lot longer than they normally would, but that was just to like make it less intense and less painful. So the only side effects that I had was my ears would get a little irritated from the earplugs, and my jaw would get irritated from the pressure of the helmet. But other than that, I had no fatigue. There was one point during the middle of the treatments where I kind of got a little manic, but I was able to kind of de-escalate from that and get some more like real, genuine, lasting benefits out of the treatment. And I was blown away by how few symptoms I've had, especially, you know, I've almost died several times from side effects from medications. So I was just kind of like, I was like, whatever, throw it at me. And so I was just blown away by how few side effects there were, because I react horribly to everything. But as far as the technicians and the staff team go, the people working at the office with the insurance and everything are so patient. And like a lot of the times you call those people and they're really rude. But your team was always super nice. And Dr. Valenti is incredibly intelligent and respectful as a doctor. And, you know, I can tell that she takes my concerns seriously. She understands, you know, what I'm going through, and she understood. I felt that she made good decisions overall, and, you know, was just really on point. And yeah, my whole experience with the staff and everything, I can't recall any bad experiences at all. So it was really good all around.
That's good. And before we started this recording, you were also speaking a little bit about your technician, and I think that's important, because the technicians are the ones that you all have the most contact with every day. You're seeing this person. So you want to talk a little bit just about your experience with the technician as well?
Yeah, when I first started coming in, we weren't like as chatty, but eventually, you know, when you spend that much time with someone every day, you start chatting. And she really, I think like a combination of her and the treatment really brought me out of my shell in a lot of ways. And when I ended treatment, she made this card for me, and I kept it because it's like the sweetest, like I cried. It was just like the sweetest thing I've ever, this probably like one of the sweetest things anyone's ever done for me. And like, she was just so like supportive, and like made me feel like someone that was likable. And like she made me feel good about myself, and just made it a really good experience all around. I love Sandra, and I I'm blessed that she was my tech during my treatment, because I think that really is half the battle with TMS.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, ultimately our goal, right, is that one, that you'll get the best benefits you can from transcranial magnetic stimulation. At the end of the day, though, as the providers, we don't know for sure who's going to benefit and who isn't. We know that there's a high percentage that do benefit, but we can't predict who those people are.
Right.
And so our goal is, we can't predict your response to TMS, but what we can predict is the kind of environment we provide and the kind of staff that we bring in to be a support to you every day. And so I think it's good feedback for me and for all the staff, because that's really what our goal is that, everybody has that kind of experience like you did. And, we're not perfect. We don't always get it right, but, I'm looking for, as often as possible to get it right. And so I'm happy to hear that was, your overall experience, both with the treatment and the technician. And I think also talking about the beginning of treatment as well, for different people, the tapping pressure in the first few sessions can feel a little more intense, like you were describing. And so that's the good thing about our doctors and our technicians, is they work with people, and generally there's a transition where it gets easier and easier at, each day that you come in. And some people are more sensitive to others, but we work around what people's sensitivity is and how it's feeling. So it's good to hear that was your experience, and that you stuck with it, and that you noticed the shift as you guys kind of gradually titrated you up to where you needed to be. So.
Yeah, I kind of, I was very sensitive to it, and so I have like sensory issues. So in the past, when I've had MRIs, it has been extremely, extremely challenging to stay still. And then the second I get out of the MRI, I just lose it, because it's so overwhelming for me. And I just want to say, anybody that's had that experience with an MRI, TMS is very different. You're not in a machine, it's just like on your head. And if you want to take it off and stop, you can stop. Like if it's totally overwhelming you, you can just say that. And it's for me, with someone who's I'm a very sensitive person, I have sensory issues, and I'm very, I get ASMR, which is like that positive sensory response, but I also get really strong negative sensory response. So for me, that was a huge concern with the treatment, and I felt that it was tolerable. So yeah.
That's great. That's great to hear. So what would you say were your overall, the overall benefits that you've experienced since you received TMS? So how long ago was it that you ended around? Like how many months?
About 13 months ago-ish.
Okay. Yeah. And so what's changed in your life, or what's changed with your symptoms?
So as I said before, I have bipolar disorder. It's more depression than it is mania, but I definitely have experienced a balance on both sides. And I think what it really feels like to me is that it expanded my brain, it expanded my awareness, it expanded and rewired my neural connections in a way that when I begin to spiral one way or the other, I can step back and be like, okay, this might be how I'm feeling right now, but I don't have to over-identify with my feelings, and I don't have to entertain any thoughts I don't want to entertain. Mm-hmm. And it really, because I had been in CBT, I've been in CBT since, like I said, since I was like 10 or 11, but it never really sunk in the way that it should have until I did TMS. And now now I'm at a place where I can actually utilize those coping tools. Sure. And I have started to delve a lot more into my spirituality and witchcraft, which has really, really, really brought me so much healing. And like, I've just found so many more diverse, exciting, holistic ways to heal. And it's just really changed the way that I think, and changed my perception and my awareness of my thoughts and my behaviors.
That's great. That's great. And that's one of the things we talk to with providers, who are considering referring, is that the way we view TMS is that we're sort of a tool in the toolbox of mental health for both, clients and providers, and that the therapy often becomes more important, because when people start to feel better, number one, exactly what you said, you're better able to utilize treatment. And number two, you may have more clarity, right? That you're kind of want to sort through, because now you're not so severely depressed. You can't even, get out of your own way.
Yeah.
So I think you nail it with that my whole theory. It is that I think therapy is so key in this process to healing. The TMS sort of helps to take the edge and lift the mood and clear the thoughts, and then the therapy becomes so key at that point. So
yeah, because you have to do all the healing work, but you can't do the work if you're not in a place to do the work. So yeah, I think TMS put me on the right path and put me on a path where I know I'm headed in the right direction, and I know that I'm healing, even if it takes a long time. I know that I just have that mental clarity, like you said. And when I think about the future, it doesn't feel like an electrical fire in my brain all the time anymore. And I can kind of have like a logical, I still struggle, of course, but it's just easier to manage. And I think it has helped a little bit with my anxiety and my confidence, self-esteem, just like everything. And yeah, I don't know. I do feel like it literally grew my brain. Like I just feel more capable, aware,
that's
clear-minded. Yeah,
that's great. So I like to we've asked other people who have gotten treatment with us, both in this or in just interviews we've done with people, like if you were a person outside, watching Monday Mornings with Margie, listening to you speak, you were someone struggling with depression and anxiety, and ambivalent, not knowing what to do, where to turn, how to figure this out, what would be some words you might share? What would you say to somebody like that who might be thinking about, what do I do next?
Well, when I first had my info session, it was actually months after that I started treatment, and I really just kind of dragged through that process, and I do regret not starting it sooner, because when I think about like all the paperwork and insurance and this and that, it's overwhelming, and a lot of people don't want to deal with that. But the like office staff really like just took care of it for you, because they understand when you're in that place of depression and that you want treatment, but it's not as simple as just going and getting up and getting it, Right. And so if there's financial barriers, I say try and work something out with them, because they will try their hardest to work out something with you financially. If it's a worry about the technician or the team, I say that they are fantastic. And I just say, don't put it off any longer. And even if it doesn't work, what's the worst that can happen? The side effects are so few and far between for so many people, and the remission rates are so high. I just think it's really worth a shot, and I recommend it to people all the time. I carry a TMS pamphlet in my purse. And I talk about it all the time, because I really stand by it. And I hope in the future someday that it's as accessible as Prozac and Zoloft. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, I think that's the ultimate goal, is someday that, maybe people would be able to choose between an antidepressant and TMS, or maybe they come in after one antidepressant failure, as opposed to, 2, 3, or 4 antidepressant failures. So I think that's great. And I think it's great to hear your story. Having worked in mental health and now being the director of operation, I'm not so much in the trenches like I used to be. But my ultimate goal of helping people is still, ever part of me. You'll never take the social worker out of me. And so it's always nice to hear these stories and know how we're changing people's lives through this non-invasive treatment option. So I appreciate you taking the time to share your story with us. It takes courage to put yourself out there. And, I appreciate you sharing this with other people and with me, so I can just, it reinforces for me, like, what we're doing is a really good thing.
Yeah. And I think the fact that you're clearly not greed motivated is a huge thing, because there's so many medicinal industries and healing industries that are just really greedy, because that's just how this country is. And I felt that my best interests really were at the heart of TMS. And you know, I ended up personally, because of my financial situation, I ended up receiving my treatment 100% free. And if that hadn't been an option, I wouldn't have been able to get TMS, and I don't know where I would be with my life right now. So that was huge. And like I said, I tried dozens and dozens of psychotropic medications, like literally dozens, before I had TMS. And I just wish that I had found out about TMS sooner. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your story. And, you know, I'm happy to have you back, you know, in another 6 months or another 12 months or whatever, to check in and see how you're doing and where you're at in your life. But if you don't come back, that's okay too. I just want to thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
And I hope you continue to progress in feeling better and figuring things out for yourself.
Yeah, I started an Etsy shop, and I'm trying to establish my own small business. So I'll check in with you, and hopefully I will be up and running with that business by that time.
Awesome.
Right.
Thank you so much. And so thank you to everyone watching and listening. And I hope you have a great week and be well.
Thank you.